Hey, Brown Girl Banter.
Hey, Brown Girl Banter.
I am Dr. Dangerfield.
And I am Dr. Patience.
Hey.
Good to see
we got a good topic for today.
Yeah, it's good to see everybody. Glad you're here with us. Me and Dr. Dangerfield.
The things we come up with to talk about.
And we're going to call it in our quick production meetings. Things that we talk about with like what we're seeing, what we're hearing, our own experiences in these particular things. And so lately, it's interesting. I went to brunch and I had brunch with a bunch of amazing, intelligent, educated, vibrant, charismatic Black women. We were at the table. And then all of a sudden we all said, so what do you want to do when you grow up? And I said, well, what do you want to do?
Oh, so that was the conversation?
And then what do you want to do when you grow up?
Everybody was looking like, I don't know. They have an idea.
I was supposed to say, or do we not?
We know, but afraid to either voice it or do it.
Boom. So then we said, hey, you know what would be a great topic for Brown Girl Banter? I was supposed to say bae, our other group girl. Is to talk about the fear factor.
Yeah, because it shows up in all of us, and we're not saying do not ever fear, because fear is healthy.
Yes, there's healthy fear.
Yeah, fear keep you out of trouble.
Definitely.
But when fear is keeping you from living your best life, that's when it
becomes problematic.
Yeah.
And so I have noticed, I don't know, you tell me what you've been seeing and what you've been experiencing, and you can tell us too how you experience fear, is that often when I'm talking to, let's say, like my friends, or when I'm talking to clients, and I'm like, oh, okay, so what's the end game? What's the goal? What is it that you, like, you're talking to me, but what is it that you want to do? Well, I really would like it if blah, 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 blah. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm like, okay, that sounds amazing. Okay, so what do we want to do? Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure. Like,
they begin to shrink.
Ooh.
Like for me, watching them shrink. Because like they're like, oh, blah, 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 blah. And excitement is like, oh, and then we're like, well, what's keeping you from doing it? Oh. And then they shrink almost like into that little girl.
Into inner child, little them. And it's this, I mean, how many excuses, right? How many reasons that they honestly believe to be true that keeps them from doing this particular thing. And at the end of it, usually in my session, I go, so you're scared. Okay, got it. Like, let's just call it what it is. It's fear. And so a big thing that I am hoping for myself, I mean, fear is normal. First of all, let us normalize fear. You are an entrepreneur. I am an entrepreneur. I tell the story all the time about her saying, what is my exit strategy? And me kind of like hemming and hawing, and her like, okay, if this is not what you want,
it's okay.
If it's not beneficial for you, if you're coming here to see me stressed out all the time, what's your exit strategy? And so that is when I realized, like, okay, I have to change something here, right? Because I am paralyzed. I am stagnant in this uncomfortable thing that is actually making me an angry person. Because I'm afraid.
Do you want to be angry and afraid? But it does. Because you become very frustrated with self. Because you're like, oh, I know I can. Because you actually can see yourself doing it. But it's that middle place of, if I make this, am I making the right decision? Fear of failure. Fear of what I found a lot of times with a lot of like even the clients I see, sometimes even with myself, is why I do some of the things why I don't do some of the things that I know I should be doing, is what is other people going to think?
Oh yes, the perceptions of others.
Yeah, so it's that fear. It's like, what are they going to think if I get out here and do this when it's different from what everybody's doing? Or what if it fails? Well, if it fails, that means then try something a little different, or like kind of switch things. Because I finally pushed myself out of the nest on becoming an entrepreneur. It took like enough anger and enough playing at work. Because when you can be late for work, all because you don't want to go, was late, was sit out in the car, in the parking lot. Finally, I was like, who's this serving?
Exactly. I gotta change something up.
I gotta change something up, and like really like being willing to do it afraid, because fear
get afraid.
Because fear is not gonna go it really is not gonna go anywhere, and we're uncomfortable already. So just be uncomfortable being uncomfortable.
Exactly. That's it. And I think with fear, it's the unknown. We want to know how everything is going to be. We got to have an answer for it. It's got to be guaranteed. It has to be this particular thing. And that's anything. So like, even I was talking to Dr. Dangerfield, and I was like, we are living in a climate of fear with all these shootings and things of that sort. Like, we don't trust anything. And I'm like, there's when a level of acceptance kind of has to come into place, right? Acceptance is, I am going to take this risk, send my kid to school, open this business, get in this relationship, whatever it looks like. I'm going to take this risk, and I'm accepting that it won't be comfortable for me.
Right. And it won't be perfect.
And here you go. It might not work out.
And it's okay.
It's okay. And sometimes it's not okay, right? I don't want to minimize, like, okay, you send your kids to school and something tragic happens, right? That's not okay. We get that. But if you live in that fear, you won't function.
Because I was actually even talking to my nail tech, and we were just talking the other day, and he said it's because of everything that's going on in the world. He said, I found myself just wanting to like isolate and be just in my own home and not really do anything. And then he said, I had to come to the realization that, do I want to live my life like this for the rest of my life? He said, things are going to happen. I just have to be aware.
That's smart.
He said, be aware. Like when I go to places, be aware, making sure that I keep my eye out on, like what's the exits are, don't be so comfortable that I forget to be aware.
Exactly. And that's important, because fear will have you bound. Literally.
It will imprison you.
It will imprison you. And so it's the self-awareness of like, why am I not acting? Why am I not doing? Why am I not living? Oh, because you can give me, if I'm your therapist, you can give me 50,000 reasons. I'm going to bring you back to, okay, you afraid. That's fear.
At the end of the day.
Right. And once we figure out it is fear, then what are you going to do about it?
Yes.
Exit strategy. You got to change something and do it, like you said, uncomfortable.
Yeah. And I ask my clients, I'm like, okay, so what if it worked? I said, so what would that look like? Like if everything worked out, what would that look like? And then they can name off that. I was like, so what if it don't work? And then they'll say, well, if it don't work out, blah, 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 blah. I was like, what's the worst thing that can happen? And I said, so, well, usually somewhere around, 80% of the time things are going to work out. It said 20% that sometimes happens and don't happen. I said, but if you can get out there and be okay with the 80%, you did it.
You did it. I think I think, again, y'all gonna realize I say this a lot in this upcoming season, is that it is a change in how we perceive and see things. And I get it, right? We come up with the generations before us. You get this job.
Oh, you work there for the 20, 25, 30, 50, 100. Until they put you out.
Till they put you out, right? You don't do anything risky.
Right. No, they risk aversion.
Dude. And so then we come along generations after them and are changing things up. They don't understand it. They don't get it. Even though, what's that, Z? They don't even.
Some of them, they'll just jump out the window. Some of these young people coming up, they don't have fear.
None.
And then sometimes I'm like, you need to have just a little.
You gotta have a little. Gotta have a little. Just a little bit. Right? And so, I think that our mindset has been, in this place of like, we might say, oh, I'm free of how my mom and dad were, but there are still areas
that keep you still in prison.
You're still developed into, you were raised in it. So we get it, right?
It's supposed to look like that.
Exactly.
It's supposed to look a certain way. You're supposed to do things a certain way.
Mm-hmm. But if you find that the only reason you're not doing it is because you're afraid of failing at it, then you are limiting the possibilities for yourself.
And you're limiting the possibilities for legacy. You're limiting the possibilities for other people to experience you.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that I've been hearing lately in like different messages that I've heard. It's like we all are created for a reason, and if you don't do what you're like, that thing that won't go away, that thing that's gnawing at you, and like every time you be like, I'm gonna go do something else, he come back be like knocking on the door. You're somebody else is missing out. Somebody else does not get the opportunity to experience you, and it's regardless of what it is. Like if you're afraid that I ain't gonna date because you
just about to ask you about that.
People like, oh, I ain't gonna date because people out here they not. Well, I don't know. But you may miss out on the experience of, even if the relationship don't work, the experience of meeting somebody else that, as we said in our previous thing, that can expand your knowledge base, your experiences, because they may introduce you to something that that you didn't even know about, just because you had the interaction with that person.
Exactly. And fear, I think, and I was going to ask you about this, funny you brought the relationship piece, because it's like, how does it show up when it comes to relationships? Because that's often a question that I get, or I don't get, and I realize that fear is showing up for them. And it's usually, which is why we say get a therapist. It's childhood stuff.
Oh yeah. Because that's what keeps a lot of us bound, is the things that something that happened in our childhood. Because I, like, even in my work with my clients, I realize, like you said, childhood stuff is like that attachment, that sense of belonging, those core beliefs, those things. So like we said, go get you a therapist, do some work around what is it that you really believe about yourself.
Yes.
And like if it's those negative things, like, where did that come from?
Where did that come from? I think we're not even aware of the narrative we feed ourselves and that we reinforce with ourselves on a day-to-day basis. And so when we use those defense mechanisms really well, we justify, we rationalize.
They keep us safe.
We're like, yes, no, this is why I'm not going to date him. Or I went on a date with him and he was just so blah, 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 blah. I went on a date with her and she was so blah, blah, blah. Right? And that is really your fear. Fear of rejection. Fear of abandonment, fear of neglect.
Let me leave before he leaves.
Yes.
Let me leave before she leaves.
Yes.
Let me reject. Let me abandon.
Exactly. So if you find yourself always having a reason, rationalizing something, intellectualize, like, oh, that sounded real good. That made good sense, didn't it, girl? That's why I'm not doing it. That one right there.
We know. We know.
Exactly. That is you. Then you have to say, wait a minute. What's really happening with me?
What's keeping me in this space? Because y'all know I'm gonna tell y'all my truth. It's been a couple years ago. I was going back through my journals because I keep my journals, and I was reading my journals, and you know how you see, like, I was like, well, that was a year ago. Then I read the next year. I'm like, I'm having the same conversation, like, about the same thing. Like, it was like, what is it that I wanted? And then finally I had to get honest with myself to say, you are afraid to do this. So what is this fear about?
Exactly.
And so having to tear that apart is, still working on some of it, but have to tear it apart and be like, okay, to be willing to do things afraid.
And with fear comes, vulnerability. And I think that is the biggest part of where some of that fear comes along too, because I have to expose myself. I have to be out here.
Yeah, people will find out.
People will find out, and then people will say things. And what if I don't like what they say? What if they hurt my feelings? What if they hurt me? What if they don't like it?
And And you know what? And I say this to my clients because I have some clients. I said, does it really matter? Because like even I had to have that conversation with myself. It's like, does it really matter whether they like what I say? If I'm not doing it with intent and harm, I'm doing it, like you said, doing something, jumping out there, trying to do things, even if it's fearful, that's going to be for the betterment of me or moving towards purpose, and I tell my clients, like, don't get caught up in what other people are going to think or say, because they're usually not doing it. They want to keep you with them. And so it's like, let's do this. I'll share a quick story. I went to St. Louis, and I have this fear of heights. But like, I don't tell people that I have a fear of heights. I just told y'all. And so before we went to pick up the car, and the lady at the car place, she was telling us about, her experience of going into art. And so she was like, ooh, if you have a fear of heights, I wouldn't suggest that you go. And then she was telling this whole story. So I had kind of talked myself out of not going, but I wasn't going to tell my friends that I was with that I was not going to go because I had this fear of heights. I was just going to tell them, I'll just stay down here and wait for our other friend to be there. So, just going to come. And so, but in it, I was like, what is the worst thing that could happen? And am I willing to miss out on that experience with my friends? Because they were going up.
Yeah.
They were going
with or without you. You going. We going.
But do I want to miss that experience? So I bought my ticket with some hesitancy. I was like, I don't know. And I'm like, well, I can still forfeit my ticket if I want to. But I did it. And then once I got up there, I'm the type of person, I love it. I love seeing things from different. So being able to see.
That's cool.
I never would have saw some of that on the ground if I hadn't gone up in it. Yeah, going up in that little thing and it was making noise. I was like, "Ooh, Jesus, be offended, keep us safe." but I went up and I was like, and after I did it, I was like, that was so much fun.
We miss out on experiences.
Yes.
We really do when we don't allow ourselves the space to do something that's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be new. It's going to be different. But does that mean we don't do it? Doesn't mean we don't show up for ourselves. I mean, fear is powerful, right? It can bring about anxiety. It can bring about depression. It can bring about a lot of different diagnoses, a lot of different symptoms, a lot of things that you can experience.
It's not
addressed and dealt with. And so we really encourage you to journal.
Yes.
Journal.
Definitely.
I think there's so much value in going back and being able to see, okay, this is just me making excuses. This is just me fearful. This is just me wanting to stay comfortable. What you have to understand about the brain, it's going to always choose ease.
Oh, yeah.
We're not going to give y'all a little brain lesson today, but it's going to always choose ease.
It's not going to look for challenge.
Until you create different neural pathways for it that are like, oh, we can do this, then it's just going to stick with what it knows because it likes to be comfortable. And so
back to what it knows.
Yes. And so you have to make an intentional choice to step out of your fear.
Yep.
And do something different. Yeah. You gotta. And so it's up to you. That's your choice. So we encourage you, work with somebody.
Yes.
You can work with a coach. I'm always pub a coach, but you can work with a life coach. You can work with your therapist. We're trained to do that too, to help you through that process. And most life coaches, if they're good, if it's something that needs to be seen by a therapist,
they will refer.
They will make the referral.
Like, hey,
This
is not my lane.
You need to go see someone. So they'll do that. So we encourage you that journaling is super beneficial. You got anything else you think?
And then there's a couple one, breathe. Get into the present. Mindfulness is key and essential also because a lot of times our fear like we said, comes from something in the past. So being able to check that, but also it's also projecting into the future, which creates that anxiety. So like, bring yourself back into the present and just, notice your breath, and then asking yourself, like, what is it? What is one step that I can take? Because we're not talking about just get up there and just jump.
No, of course
or
not.
just like quit your job tomorrow without a plan. Just start. What is something that I can do today to get me closer to what I want? And it's just a little bit of taking you out of your comfort zone to get you, and the next thing you know, you already over there.
Yes, so little exposure therapy.
Yeah, that's it. Inch by inch.
Inch by inch. Please don't
just. You don't have to just fully fling yourself into it.
You did a little exposure therapy.
Well, yeah, I do. Sometimes I'll tell y'all about me. I'll hem and haw, and I'll be like, no, and then I'll just get out there and do it, and usually after I done, I'm like, girl, it wasn't that bad. Or what were you thinking?
One of the two.
What were you thinking? And like, it depends on who's with me. Can usually talk me into stuff, because like I tell you, my sister Lavita, she'll pull it like, what? You scared of heights?
That's what my sister
and
said.
then she goes, when did you become scared of heights? And I'm like
shaming me. Thank you.
And then I'm like, well, I always ain't never loved you. But she's like, but you've done this. I'm like, because I don't want to be the one left on the ground.
Exactly.
And I don't want other people to come back and tell me how much fun they had. And I missed
out on FOMO. Fear of missing out.
Right,
Nobody wants that.
Miss on the opportunity.
I totally get that. So yeah, take an opportunity to really reflect on that. Do you want to miss out on all these opportunities? I love what Dr. Dangerfield, people getting the opportunity to experience you.
Yeah, you want to get the opportunity to experience things and other people.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so whatever it is, that date, that relationship, that job, that entrepreneurship, whatever it is that you feel like you've been holding yourself back from doing, paralyzed, not making any progress on, we challenge you today. Find that one small goal you can do. And do that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks so much. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, if you need something from us, please feel free to DM us. Please leave a comment. Please follow us on social media. You can find my beautiful co-host where?
Instagram. I am Dr. Dangerfield.
You can find me at I am Dr. Patience, and you can find us as a tag team unit on Instagram where?
I am Brown Girl Banter.
There she is. Look at her. Got it. Boom. And then please go to YouTube. Go to YouTube and follow our page, which is
Brown Girl Banter.
Brown Girl, one word.
One word.
And Banter. Share, like, follow, all the comment. We just really want to make sure that we're getting this information out there to people who can relate and who need it. So take care. We'll see y'all on our next episode.
Bye, Brown Girl Banter.
Bye, Brown Girl Banter.